Sangram with us, a personal friend and someone I really admire and respect. He has built two companies, past 100 million in revenue, led marketing at Pardot, and then co-founded Terminus. Right, it basically helped define account-based marketing to us. Right, he's a Wall Street Journal best-selling author of Move and the creator of Go to GTMonday, a go-to-market newsletter with 175,000 leaders and followers. Um, Whether he's speaking, writing, or teaching, Sangram is known for making GTM strategy clear, actionable, and unforgettable. Welcome, Sangram. Excited to have you here, my friend.
Man, it's been really cool. It was great meeting you at that big event and just spending time with you. Looks like you guys are building something cool, and I'm learning so much every single day. I feel like after writing the book, I became a student of go to market. It's not something that I can anyway. Before I writing the book, I thought, oh, I knew a lot about go to market. I've built companies, but man, after writing the book and with all the things that are happening in the world of go to market, I feel like I've become a student, and I want to be a really good student of the craft.
Wow. Yeah, no. And tell us more about your journey, right? Like, again, you've been asked this multiple times, but like, what were the inflection points where you were like, okay, this is where I've decided to do this. And then that took you forward?
Yeah, just in a really interesting way. I think my whole journey could be defined in three acronyms: marketing automation, MA, ABM, and now GTM. And that's pretty much sums up my entire career. So when I ran marketing at Pardot, we got acquired by ExactTarget. And then within 6 months, we got acquired by Salesforce. And I was there. All of a sudden, I went from like this $10 million company to a $10 billion company. Current, quite frankly, that's what really impressed upon my mind and heart, like what it means to build a massive movement and a business, and how do you think at a speed much greater than what we're used to in a 5, 10, $20 million company. It was magical. It was my best MBA, if you will, of 2 years at Salesforce, just seeing Mark Benioff do his thing. And then but then there was a point where my head of sales on the counterpart on our team came and said, give me more leads. And I'm like, I just gave you like 30,000 leads. How many more leads do you want? Why don't we do more with pipeline, and why don't we do them with customer expansion? And he said, no, dude, your marketing, your job is to give me leads. Yeah. That made me feel like a coin operated lead machine. And that made me think like, all right, something got to change. And that led me to start a Terminus on the idea of account base, and saying that, well, if we marketing and sales, if we all can focus on accounts, then we would not be chasing random leads and just trying to do a volume game. We will actually start to build a more efficient pipeline, and marketing could actually be a more strategic partner of working on those deals. And that's really the genesis of ABM. But at Terminus, we because it was a new category and we were building that, we had a churn issue, and I thought customer success is the problem. And that made me think about, well, the real way to run a business is to think about go to market as a business, and that includes marketing, sales, customer success, product, and the CEO as a big part of this. So my whole journey has been just learning doing something, and figuring out, oh man, that's a bad idea, to do something better, and then recognizing there's lots of room of improvement. And so the marketing automation to ABM to GTM, the books I've written, is literal my personal mental evolution of how I think about business and how I've grown personally.
Beautiful. I mean, I would recommend everyone to check out the book. It's phenomenal.
Thank you.
Sangram, in your latest GTMonday newsletter, you wrote, it's not a talent issue or a funding issue. It's a stage alignment issue. So can you walk us through the three Ps, like, problem market fit, product market fit, platform market fit of GTM maturity? And like, what does that even mean? Product market, everyone knows, but like problem market, platform market, right? And how does data help your leaders, which stage they are really in?
Yeah, I mean, if I were to do a PhD, that would be on these three Ps. I remember, and most of people probably know of the author of Crossing the Chasm, Jeffrey Moore. When he gave us a quote and he read the book, and he said, this is literally how, he said, you guys, that was a big compliment, where he said, we wrote it better, this three stages, than he had in his experience. So it's been really awesome to hear somebody say that. And those three stages are really stages of any maturity curve that people would see, but it has a very clear distinction. It's about like, for example, problem market fit. The point there is that you have to figure out, is the problem a real painkiller, like a real problem, and is the market big enough?
Right.
A lot of people start with just pure play, creating a product and then launching it and then figuring it out, is the market big enough? And that is almost the reverse wave. That's where all the funding has gone wrong, where companies raised a lot of money on the idea that this is a big problem and on the idea that there's a big market for it, but they never tested it. And the way you test it is, quite frankly, just start a community and see if people would join. Is there a problem? Like at Terminus, we built something called as FlipMyFunnel community, where we had over 100,000 people all trying to figure out, how do we flip the funnel? And because everybody we're challenged with this old funnel where less than 1% of the leads turn into customers. So because we knew that was the problem, we ended up acquiring companies. We acquired 5 companies current at Terminus in 8 years, because we didn't have the product to deliver, but we had a huge market out there that was asking and demanding for that. So a lot of companies miss the step of problem market fit, and they jump into, as you said, because it's very well known, the product market fit, and they're like just trying to get to it. So I think problem market fit is the most misunderstood stage and probably the most important stage of it. And I can jump into platform market fit too, but I'm curious what you make of it.
No, that makes a ton of sense. How did you guys build that community? I know you're a big fan of communities, right? Like, how did you build that community at Terminus, and like otherwise too? Like, what are some of your tips on building communities for people?
Yeah, well, there. I mean, it's so interesting. We did this at Terminus, and I did it differently, and I'm doing this at GTM Partners, as you know, and I honestly think like it's the best way to do it, because I'll tell you a quick story on this thing. So when we were 3 founders, right? We started Terminus, Eric Sped, Eric Vass, and myself. They actually started the company. I joined them 6 months later, almost. So I always call them, they're the original founders. I just get to take credit for it, but they actually are the one who started it.
Right.
And then over a period of time, we realized we're based out of Atlanta. Nobody knows us. How in the world are we going to be able to do it? And we haven't raised any money at that time. We just have a little bit of seed funding. And I was on a flight from San Francisco to Atlanta, and I was sitting in the middle seat in between 2 drunk people, and had no Wi-Fi. And that's when I borrowed a pen and a napkin from the air hostess and just started to draw the old funnel, the up, like this funnel that people know, broad at the top, narrow at the bottom. And then out of pure boredom, Karan, if I wish I could say out of smartness or intelligence or brilliance, no, it is pure boredom. I flipped it. And I said, what if the funnel was flipped? What if it was better? And I started to create stages. By the time I landed, I had this new funnel invented on a flight 30,000 foot above. And I wrote down these things, and I wrote a LinkedIn post. And this was in 2015. 5 people liked it. That means it went viral in those days, right? Like, so, and somebody said you should do something about it. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. I sent a note to a lot of our partners and that in the MarTech space, and asked them, hey, I want to launch an event for this. And they said, why would we launch in Terminus? Why would we sponsor a Terminus event? It makes no sense to us because nobody knew us. And then I said, hey, I bought this domain for $8 called FlipMyFunnel. What if you all actually sponsored an event called FlipMyFunnel, and each one of you pay $10,000? I'll give you a keynote at it. The only condition is nobody gets to pitch their product. Guess what, Karan? Everybody said yes. So the first event, we had 300 people show up. 10 companies paid for it as sponsor. We were a booth just like everybody else, and that's landed the first event of FlipMyFunnel. The idea was born in a plane, and we spent, guess what, $0 on it because it was a paid event. And at the end of the event, all the partners were like, hey, this is good. Where is the next event? We had no idea that we were going to do a next event. So we're like, yeah, it's going to come up. And then we ended up that year, Karan, we did 5 events in different cities and took the gospel of ABM in different, so same sponsors, same speakers. And so it allowed us to build a massive brand without actually spending a single dollar. So there's different ways to go about it. So I'm a big fan of events. And then at that time, Slack didn't exist really. So there wasn't a way of building another community. At GTM Partners now, we're doing it at the executive level. So we don't want masses, we want the right kind of people. But I'm putting the whole email list on GTM Monday.
Yeah.
As you said, there are 175,000 people read it. And guess what? How much I pay to run an email? $0. So I feel like the ability to build it, it's all possible. You just have to have the heart and passion for what you're really trying to do for long periods of time.
Right. And so this is super interesting. If someone is is thinking of building or starting to build a community now, what would you recommend should be like the first three things they do?
I think the first thing, they should just start writing a lot about it. Either whatever the best gift they have, maybe their videos, maybe they're good at writing, whatever it is. And because of tools like Substack and others that you can write it for free, or LinkedIn, I can believe that all this is free. Karan, can you imagine, like we all get to market for free? It's crazy if you really think about it, in front of all the people. So I think YouTube, like whatever is your way of communication, and whatever you're naturally good at, you should write it for every single day. Don't skip a bit. Don't look behind and see how many people liked on it. Just write and get a version of it. Write it for at least 2-3 months, like 30, 60, 90 days. And then you will start seeing a pattern of what's working, what's not working, what messages. My LinkedIn, if you ever go back and look at my LinkedIn, there are some posts that have 10 likes and some have 3,000, right?
Yeah.
And the whole point is I'm always testing what's working, what's not working. And when I test something on LinkedIn, it tells me, oh, that particular post worked. So I will turn that into a GTM Monday post. And then I'll write a bigger article on it, because I know there's a pulse for it. So if you are new to it and if you want to start something, first of all, just start writing or doing videos, because you're getting free feedback from your market. And if there is enough engagement you will figure out what you have more engagement. Then you ask the community, what do they want? Do they want a physical event or a virtual event or in person or a Slack community? I think you can then start building on it. I think most people, I promise you, if somebody wants to do this, I'll say 99% would never do what I just said. And that is what the difference between 1 and 99 is.
You're right. You're bang on with that, man. Completely. And Sangram, you also mentioned, right, one saying the problem that 50 million were already there at 500K, they were just ignored.
Yeah.
Right. So, what are some of these early GTM signals that teams overlook, right? Like, and you've obviously seen everything from startups to scaled companies to enterprises. Uh, as companies move from startups to scale up, how should they approach to identify these buying signals versus vanity metrics? Like, what are these problems which get ignored according to you?
I think those, I mean, Karan, at 1 million, we thought we conquered everything when we were building the last business. At 5 million, we felt like we lost everything because we didn't know what was going on. At 10 million, we felt like we were in so much debt that we cannot come out of it. And people are going to just hunt us down and kill us because we're not delivering on something. At about 25 million, I felt like I should just leave the country and just pack up my bag. And the point I'm trying to make is that every certain point, it feels like you just climbed a little hill compared to the mountain you're about to go climb in the next phase of it. And that's what those problem product platform stages really are about. But all along, I think there's this trail that you are always leaving behind that you see, and you know it in the back of my mind, but you're too busy to act on it. And some of those are that in many times, and this has happened at Pardot, for example, we had a tremendous amount of success with people who had CRM integration with Salesforce. But if they had any other CRM integration, it actually cost us more money and more time to keep those customers, do those unique things that they wanted to do. And it ate up half of our engineering staff's time. At one point, when we measured it, we saw 80% of our time by the engineering folks was actually taken over by fixing something for this 5 customers that we don't even want to begin with. So this breadcrumb is always there, where are you serving the best fit customer? That's a question that you have to constantly ask, not the celebration of, hey, new customer, new revenue. No, best fit, where they are the right customers. They will give you the great ideas and feedback for your product, and then they will actually stay longer with you. And when you start breaking it down, typically if you have 100 customers, that's probably your 50 or 60 customers in the problem to product market fit stage. It's literally 50-60%, and that's it. And then the 40% is killing your business. So those, and as you grow at 5 million and 10 and 25, that number really starts growing. And because even if it's 60-70% are good and 30% are bad, that is going to kill your business. And that is the thing that every company has. We all know, man, that healthcare specific, that's not good business for us. But because we want to hit certain numbers, we keep closing deals like that. We keep supporting a rep that we shouldn't be supporting to close some of those deals, but it looks good at the end of the month because it shows that we increased our revenue. We have all these telltale signs and signposts and everything everywhere, but we keep ignoring it because we are on this adrenaline of growing the business and moving forward. And I think that's the part I've made that mistake so many times. So I feel like that's what when you're at 5, 10, 50 million, those, whatever the problem is that's going to really shut it down, actually existed when you were a $500,000 or $1 million business. And and you've been ignoring it.
So you're saying it's all about the ICP?
It is ultimately, like, for example, the worst thing I ever love, I had this individual who just joined a certified program we have. He just, like a few weeks, I think 3 months ago, he was on LinkedIn and he was talking about, we generated 20 million pipeline and we're doing so great. And next week he was fired. And when I talked to him about it, he's like, man, I never knew that our ICP, the pipeline that we were creating, wasn't fit. So we were bringing this net new, we're somehow closing them, but they were all churning in the back, or a good percentage of them were churning. So if I would have spent more time on the best fit ICP based on what stays, I wouldn't have to even create 20 million pipeline. I think we would have been a better job if we created $5 million pipeline. That was a good pipeline and we had the good revenue from that 5 and they stayed with us. We would actually have less bloat in the business and I would have had my job. So this happens all the time, Karan.
Yep. And Sangram, just double clicking on this, right? Like as GTM Partners, you're consulting all these mid-market enterprise customers. When you see this problem bloated, right? Like they are now at 50 to 100 million in revenue. And you see if it's 30 to 40%, like you said, that's 30 to 40 million out of that, right?
Yeah.
How do you first help them discover this? And then how do you help them convince them to fix it? And then how do you actually fix it? Like that's a big shift.
Yeah, it's a big jump. Big. I mean, everybody knows it. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's like the elephant in the room all the time. And they knew at some point they have to address it. In some cases, Karan, it could be addressed later on by acquiring another company or partnering with something that can solve for them or adding a practice to it. But for the most part, it's hard. So the way we have done it several times is we would actually have them go through what we have created, a go-to-market assessment for them, where they because if you tell somebody what problem they have, they're like, oh, I've been running this thing. It's too painful for them to even think about it. But we have this assessment and we have their entire executive team mandatorily take it. We don't work with anybody unless they do that assessment. When they do that assessment, and we just wrote in last week on this research, and they literally could see where everybody is mentally and what problems everybody on the team is feeling across the 3 Ps of the problem, product, platform, and the 4 questions that we have in the assessment. It literally visually shows them that people are all over the place. And when they see it, and when the CEO sees, and when the executive team sees the outcome of it, because they don't know what the outcome will be because they're just going through the assessment, but the outcome is when they see everybody responded, immediately, we have done this 1,000 times now. I've never had a CEO or the executive team, let's go on with the problem that we have. They have never said that, Karan. They will always say, oh my gosh, I did not know how much painful it has been for everybody. I just thought I was taking on the pain as a CEO or executive. No, everybody's feeling it. Everybody's is walking on thin ice. Everybody's trying to not do the right thing because they're trying to satisfy this thing, and they're now compelled to make a decision. And some obviously continue to go on that part, but everybody acknowledged that this has to be fixed. So that assessment at the team level, because one of the big ideas that we have as a manifesto for go-to-market is that business transformation happens in teams.
Yep.
It doesn't happen by just marketing fixing marketing and sales fixing sales. If that was the case, we would have fixed this and we would have been awesome. No, business transformation happens in teams. So we never do any advisory consulting work unless the CEO and the entire executive team is on the call. And that's that. And the assessment is the key part of it.
Right. And so once they identify that, like, how do you help them figure out the ICP, and how do you help them then, like, what is the solution like? What do they do with this 30-40% revenue, or
Yeah.
which is like kind of like a little bit of a tumor which
Yeah.
needs to move, but it's there in your body.
Yeah. And then we literally go through a recommendations plan with them where we literally look at within that, let's say it's 30%, that is something that is killing your business. The first thing is to figure out how much is it killing. If you remove it altogether, would that actually help you generate in the next 6 months a lot more business because you're focusing on the right accounts and the right ICP? Most time the answer is no, it won't immediately do that. So you don't want to dip so dramatically that it's going to cost you too much. So we literally have a plan on a in some cases it's a plan with bigger companies. When we work with, it is a 3-year plan to how you decommission this and actually increase this. So we actually you increase the cost so much that they self start going away from it, as opposed to firing them and all those. So you have to go through a process to do it, but you do it in a gradual way. In if you're really, when we work with like a $200 million company and they're looking at it, if you're a $10-15 million company, a lot of times you're like, man, this is killing your business. If you don't get rid of this thing in next 6 months, you are actually going to be in the negative. For example, uh, the another way we help them look at this is literally helping them think about NRR. And you know this really well. The net revenue retention, if it is not 120% or more, there is absolutely no reason for them to go after net new accounts until they get to that place after they have a common base. So the next part is, how do you get to 120% NRR? Because for folks who don't know this, listening to this, if it is 120% or more, which is what Snowflakes of the world and others have done, you actually double your business every 3.8 years without even adding a net new customer. But if your NRR is 75 or 80%, and this is where you got to geek out on it, you're actually killing, you will be done with your business in the next 3 years. You will actually have overspend, and you would you're actually, the business will go away because it is costly, very costly for you to keep the business going. So so one is the assessment, and the second is aligning on what is your North Star metric, and we help them align on NRR. And then the whole roadmap, the product roadmap, the go-to-market roadmap is aligned to help them get to 120%. Because once they see it, that this is going to double their business, and they can get from, let's say, 95% NRR to 100% or 105, Karan, that's magical for them because it changes the unit economics for their business.
This is so fascinating. So this makes so much sense, right? Um, Sangam, next thing, right? Like, we are getting into the age of Gen AI, and everyone is trying to figure out this white elephant, right? What does AI in XYZ look like? In our case, AI in GTM, right?
Yeah.
And one thing we as a platform have been, convinced about and tom-tomming about is saying you first have to have the data problem fixed, because it's garbage in, garbage out, right? You
Yeah.
can't just run AI on garbage data and expect it'll deliver. In fact,
Yeah.
the reason why a lot of these first wave of AI SDRs have not been able to generate results is because they're doing the same thing in a more productive fashion. But like, if you're eating the wrong food, but you're eating the wrong food in a more productive way, you're still eating the wrong food,
Yep.
right? How do you, like, what does dirty data mean to you, right? Like, CRMs, contact, what does that mean to you, and how do you work with organizations on that?
Well, first of all, just maybe taking a step in the future, Karan, I do believe that we believe that most, based on all the research that we have done, and just thinking a little bit in the future, is most organizations would not even know the names of the tools that are using internally in the future. And
Right.
here's why. They will literally be any person in the company, if they have the authority, they should be able to chat GPT them their own internal base and say, what does the pipeline look like? What is, they're not logging into something to get it. You should be able to just type in a query and it should give you results. And the beauty of AI is AI doesn't care about what department you belong to. It doesn't have silos. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have all those, like, let me check on this number doesn't, none of that, right? It's just going to give you what it's going to give you based on whatever it is there. And so it allows a level of clarity and openness and transparency that a business has to then open up to, where there's no more politics involved in that. It's just data. So in order to get there, we're not there yet, but in order to get there, I think the data has to be the data has to be in a place that makes sense. And therefore I see the roles like of GTM engineers and all of them popping up, but all of that is in the hopes of, can you have a streamlined model of how to look at information and abstract all the junk out of it? And I think it's there are going to be tools that need to do that well. And I know Sprout, you guys are pioneering a lot of this work. You are really getting into it. You're trying to clean up. I want to hear where you are seeing from your customers what you are. But we feel like that's where the future is.
Yeah, no, I mean, we are just surprised by the amount of dirty data which exists in these silos today. Like, emails and phone numbers are still not a solved problem, which is
Yeah.
like, it's like, it's emails, phone numbers, all the CRM data, all the data which exists, like account and contact intelligence data. Like you said, ICP is one of the biggest unconquered feats, right? Like, you go to organizations and, like you're saying, you talk to like 10 people in the organization, they'll have 10 different definitions of their ICP,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, why? Like, this is something which is, like you said, so core to the whole process, and there's no solution. Like, at least I have not heard of tools which are like, we solve the ICP problem,
Yeah. Well,
right?
they all, everybody says that they can give us, there's lots of tech out there today that would say that we give you clean data and, or but at the end of the day, you really have to customize it to what your needs are. And that's
Yeah,
where a lot of it is failing. And if it's a 10, 20, 50, $100 million company, you should have to go through a data audit on a very regular basis to clean up. I think all of these data from all these campaigns and all the ingestion that it has from all these different places, there needs to be a process for it. And you're right, Karan. I think that has been the last thing on people's mind. And that's why we keep spending money on net new, when really today, like literally today, everybody who's listening, if they stopped getting a net new data into there with whatever data they have, if they clean up and figure out and put it in the right segments of high propensity to buy to low, they
yeah.
will actually have the entire revenue for the rest of the year from whatever they have. I can guarantee it. The reality is nobody's going to do that.
Right. And the Sangam, what's your focus for the next 1 to 2 years? Right? Like, we're coming to the end of this episode, last 3 minutes. What is your focus over the next 12 to 24 months?
Well, our twofold. One is we are seeing a lot of adoption of our go-to-market operating system that we have invented and built. So we imagine we have over 2,000 companies who are implementing it in their organization. So we imagine in the next 5-10 years that GTM OS becomes the standard operating system for organizations to operate. It's more of a mindset, not formulaic, but more of the 8 questions in the OS is the way you think. And then we are certifying a lot of fractionals right now. All the people who have battle scars to show, they have been there and know what to do and have been there, but they really didn't have. So we are certifying a lot of the companies and fractionals right now who will be certified in implementing this operating system in organizations. So we're seeing a lot of interest in it. And secondly, we launched Go-to-Market University. We get in, like, because we have this huge base of 175,000 on a daily basis, we'll see people want to up level their skills and understand what's new, and we want to spotlight what new in GTM and also technology that's doing something good. So hopefully we'll get to spotlight you guys sometime soon.
Yeah, no, man. Always a pleasure. And this was great. Like, I can have like hours and hours of conversation with you, right? And so probably we'll set up a topic for next time and go deep into that. But like, the
Let's
whole
do it.
piece and the way you talked about how ICP is such a big issue was fascinating. Thank
Well,
you so
thanks
much.
for letting me. Yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
letting me be part of it. You guys are doing some cool stuff, so I look forward to working with you.
cheers. Thanks, man.